you don't inspire and engage people through nonsense. So when you say everything's great and they know it's not great, they're like, he's not even close to telling us the truth. If you tell them the truth and you show them a path, they'll go on that path with you. And the success of 24-hour fitness is owned by all of us, just like the failure of 24-hour fitness would be owned by all of us.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Karl Sanft, CEO of 24-Hour Fitness. In this episode, we talk about transforming the fitness chain for the next generation of gym goers. Karl shares his strategy for rebuilding post-COVID and pursuing sustainable growth. Plus, we discuss the shift toward functional training, investing in club renovations, and adapting to evolving member preferences. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is presented by EGYM. EGYM's smart fitness ecosystem is transforming healthcare through exercise. Combining strength equipment with AI-powered software and corporate wellness platform WellPass, it's leading the shift to proactive preventative health. Learn more about EGYM's intelligent workout solutions at egym.com. Hi, Karl. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
24-Hour Fitness is a name that's been around, I think, over 40 years at this point. So a brand that I think a lot of listeners will be familiar with. If you could, just maybe to kick it off, what's kind of the current state of the 24-Hour Fitness in terms of locations, members, states, like whatever you would kind of point to as like that kind of context, and we'll get into it from there.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've actually been a member of 24-Hour Fitness since 1993 with Family Fitness. Only been with the company since 2019, but just fanatical about the brand and the journey that it's been on. We currently have 270 clubs in 11 states. So we're primarily a West Coast brand, kind of mountain, if you will, but we also have a footprint in Texas, the Northeast, and Florida. And we have, over 2 million members, and we focus daily on providing, a great experience for all of them to make sure they have a chance to be, healthier and happier. So whether they're working on, kind of the mental side of things, kind of that time off that all of us need from all the things that we're responsible for, the physical side of things, we're there for them on their journey.
And it's a journey for members. It's also a journey for the company. You talk about having been a member for so long, taking over a leadership position pre-pandemic. I'm sure you've talked about that at length, but now as this idea of wellness, health, fitness all evolves, continuing to evolve with it. But maybe when you're taking the helm pre-pandemic, what was the thought process? Hey, this is what we're going to do relative to what you had to endure. And now maybe you're kind of ramping up into that difference and really just experience.
It's a really good way of looking at it. And I'll come back to ramping back up. But, the pandemic was difficult on everyone. It was difficult on our team members, wondering if there was going to be an industry. It was difficult on our vendors and all the landlords, investors, everybody that had put a foot forward in investing in our company and in the industry. And it was certainly difficult on our members in, not having a place for them to go to, et cetera. For 24-Hour Fitness, the short version is we went from about 450 clubs to about 275 clubs coming out of the pandemic. And going through it, I'm sure we kind of iterated the story as it happens. You look back at it and you maybe blend out some aspects of the story, but many of us didn't know what was going to happen or what type of industry was going to be there when it was over. I'm proud of many of the steps that we took along the way, up to and including one that we called outdoor operations, where, believe it or not, we moved all of our gyms outside. Not all of them, but probably a third of them. And it gave us an opportunity to stay engaged with our communities. It went from an access model to a usage model, and people came out and had a chance to use all the amenities and connect with their fitness communities. So that was pretty incredible. And we spent really all the way up to, the first part of 2023, really recovering from that event, building back our membership base, building back, liquidity and stability for the organization. And it really positions us, to finish up 24 and start in 2025, to really begin to thrive again. invest back in clubs. We've got remodel refreshes in over 30 clubs planned for this year, 50 for the next 2 years. That'll mean that we'll invest in about half of our clubs over the next 3 years. And when you invest in a club, I mean, it's pretty incredible for the members and team members alike. It's like their second home. It makes a difference. New equipment, new flooring, amenities, things of that nature, it makes a difference.
So when you and maybe if there's context in terms of how you did come into the CEO role, having been a member for so long, and what even that intention was, then going into having to deal with closing clubs and what's going on with the industry, all the uncertainty even beyond just fitness. Was the intent at that time, hey, let's get in there, let's open a bunch more clubs, let's expand in new territories? Was it at even that point to say, hey, let's undertake this kind of upgrading and remodel and renovation strategy, because it was again very short amount of time in that role, then having to deal with kind of crisis mode, and now back to it?
Yeah, so I spent in my 6 years as a company, I spent 3 years as the chief operating officer and now 3 years as the chief executive officer. You don't really plan those transitions. A lot of those jobs are, you wonder if you've ever going to have an opportunity, and then you're like, you got to be ready when you have the opportunity. I think that the 3 years as a chief operating officer, helped me prepare for CEO because I was familiar with the teams, I was familiar with the portfolio. I knew the business really well. It wasn't as linear as you'd like to say that it was. It'd be a statement of arrogance to say this was our plan, the whole way. I think that, in all humility, the steps that we took is, we first offered a value to welcome people back. So, we lowered our prices, we filled up our gyms, and we stabilized the company. And then once we were able to stabilize the company, we began to invest back into the company. And, as we've invested back into the company, we've, like I mentioned, started to remodel and refresh. And then as we've done that, we've raised our prices in all candor, pay for the amount of money that we're putting in. And our members have been great about that. The members don't mind paying nominally, albeit 10% or so more for a refresh gym versus, 10% less for, a gym that hasn't been refreshed. So of all the, feedback that we've got, I was just in the gym last week that we remodeled. I was all excited about it. And I met a member and he's like, hey, you took out my favorite machine. We get some of those along the way, although the machines were older, those are the ones that they like. But I've yet to kind of have the member that said, like, we don't understand the business case or agree with the business case. So I think the business case will continue to move forward. And I think as long as we serve our members appropriately and take care of our gyms, I'll be them remodel, refreshed or not, then the company will continue to grow. And then we look to build new clubs in 26 and 27. That's really kind of where we have our, eyes set, kind of lay the plans, if you will, in 2025, but get them built in 26 and 27.
Yeah, I want to talk specifically about some of the refreshes and renovations in a second, but just thinking about the broader landscape, from premium clubs to budget chains to boutiques to, there's even now, even in the short period, call it in the last 5 years, the different versions of wellness clubs or sauna studios, all these different things coming into the landscape. Where do you think about where 24-hour fitness is now, and like where the opportunities lie to differentiate or take advantage of maybe white space and continue to evolve?
It's a great question. During COVID and, a lot of the different packs that we had to, get the business back open, I had a chance to build relationships with a lot of the fellow CEOs. So when you mentioned, a lot of the other companies, they're people that I know and people that I respect. I think if you look at it along a continuum, you can start off to the left in the lowest priced gyms, that would be more like, a Planet Fitness. And then if you moved all the way over to the right, and kind of the most expensive gyms and more than a gym, but a lifestyle experience, you'd be thinking of like the Lifetimes or the Equinoxes or things of that nature. If you really believe in a healthier, happier world, you've got to embrace like every aspect of fitness. So if people say those are their choices, great. And if that's working for you, outstanding. And if you can, achieve your goals and, it fits what you're looking to accomplish, then we've got to applaud that. Where we're ultimately positioned as a brand is that, we offer, more amenities than a value based gym. So, not all of our gyms are exactly alike, but if you just kind of considered like the 80%, you're going to get a swimming pool, you're going to get a basketball court, you're going to get group classes, you're going to get lifting racks, things that people are really excited about. So we offer more amenities than a values-based gym or a value-based gym, but we also do that at a price point that isn't, near, the high level, candidly half the high level that I mentioned earlier. So I think that, the way I like to think about it is the functional floor. And I say that, I'll put our functional floor, against anybody. We've invested heavily in bringing in, new equipment and doing our best to make our gyms anew. Not every gym yet, but we're well on our way. I think that some of those other brands kind of on the high level, they're going to, kind of anchor on the side of things like spas and cafes and things of that nature. We're not participating in those type areas.
When you think about, and maybe this gets into some of the like renovation remodel, but like the functional floor, that's fairly new. Like in the, even you think of like a traditional gym, certainly there's interest in, sleds and medicine balls and kettlebells and all those things, and a general kind of shift in maybe movement away from, and you can tell me if you're seeing this trend, but maybe not as much elliptical stationary bike, more, strength racks, as you said, maybe platforms, things of that nature. So when you just think of like some of these things that are happening broadly across the industry, but also what you're seeing in your own kind of member base, how are you choosing, hey, this is where we are going to invest those dollars and really commit to upgrading the experience?
It's exactly right. I can't tell you how accurate that is. We, I mean, for lack of better explanation, gyms used to be a bit 50-50, right? 50 of
Yeah.
these rows of cardios and elliptical with arms, elliptical without arms. And you see a lot of rationalization in that space. You see more investment in things like treadmills, less investment in, those rows of elliptical. I think in a lot of places, people are getting their cardio outside, although there are instances where they do get it inside. But everything is about functional movement as you described. So large turf zones are being invested in, whether you're, moving the tank with the plates loaded on it, or, kettlebells or Y bells, or to your point, medicine balls, all about functional plyometric movements that are about not only stationary lifts like the ones that I grew up with, but more fit for life type movements is really what you see in the gyms today.
I came up working in gyms, personal trainer, group fitness, actually started cleaning a lot of that equipment that we're talking about, all the way to, then opening and working in like functional training centers. That obviously changes the nature of the training as well, and what you're doing from a programming standpoint, where you're doing from personal training standpoint. Has that been, a lot of things that can be difficult is one, finding kind of certified trainers and coaches, but then also continue to do that at a affordable price point. And then just staffing it, making sure that you have the people there necessary to run it. What type of challenges, opportunities have you seen there?
Yeah, the way I think about it is there's always a traditional, just call it PT business, and you can call that up to, and, I'll be gracious, call it 10% of your membership population, or that are going to do one-on-one personal training. And we've got great one-on-one personal trainers for whatever stage you are in life. I started working out, I'm sure a lot like you, really young. And now I'm not as young. So like what it is that I'm trying to accomplish is different. And we get trainers that can meet you at any, point in your life and, help you along that journey. As you keep going through that continuum, then you have group training, which is, just call it 6 to 8, and where you're still going to get coaching and you're still going to have somebody come over and help you with your movements, but it's not one-on-one personal training. It's a small community. It's high impact. It's usually loud, like people like music, and it's more affordable. And you're able to accelerate the outcomes that you're looking for. And then you can move to like the traditional group X, and you go group exercise to where it's like 25, 30 in a class is choreographed, and it's a heck of a workout. I remember when I started, I went in to do body pump for the first time, and they're like, grab your weights. And people are like, no, 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 Carl, grab, it's an hour. You got to grab lighter weights.
Yeah.
It's gotta, take its toll, and it's an incredible workout. So that continuum of people the more people that we can get, wherever they choose in that subsection, those are the people that are going to accelerate their outcomes. They're going to build a community. Someone's going to say, are you going to be here tomorrow? Well, we see you next week. You're looking great. These are things that you accomplished. Not that you can't work out on your own. It's just a different type of journey, and it's a different type of, member that can stay consistent on their journey. And we have other ways of doing it with 24 Go and our app and virtual nutrition coaching and personal training and things of that nature. But the idea is whatever fits your lifestyle, we look to architect a journey for you, where it's sustainable, where you're happy, and where you see results.
Yeah, it's the kind of saying the best workout is the one that you stick to. So
Exactly
it
right.
doesn't it
Exactly.
doesn't much matter. And I think to your point earlier, it's you look at the broader landscape and you're like, oh, who's a competitor and who's this? It's like we have a lot of work to do collectively across the industry to get people active and participating. And so wherever they happen to engage and whatever they like and whatever they stick to, like great, do more of that.
It's exactly right. I mean, competition's real, and there's all kinds of strategies on how people think of opening clubs and things of that nature. But I can tell you that what you said is accurate. The industry has work to do to really gain frequency, gain trust, and keep people coming back. And there's room for a lot of brands to grow. And I think if we stay humble and we stay focused, we'll continue to grow as well.
Yeah, now especially, a lot of the things that we're talking about, it's shifted very quickly from a lot of headwinds and frankly just like barriers to a lot of tailwinds with longevity and good and bad of GLP-1s and people just now having a concept of body mass and like what is my muscle mass and do I need to maintain this and preserving that for the long run. So a lot of these things are kind of moving into a mainstream conversation that even if it piques their interest a little bit, like I should be going to the gym, I should be, it's not just cardio or it's not just whatever that form of exercise is, that maybe I should take up weight training. Have you thought about or maybe even implemented anything to take advantage of some
Yeah.
of the just like broader conversation and trends that are now happening?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there. I'd probably start with the fact that COVID probably just gave us all a chance to reflect. I think if COVID taught us anything, aside from just, appreciation for our daily lives and interactions and, freedom to do the things that we want to do, aside from that, pre-existing conditions was at the top of the list, right? So all of a sudden people thought, well, wait a minute, I gotta think of my overall health for longevity. I think that was, one of the byproducts of COVID. And whether it's GLP-1s or it's nutrition or it's body composition, they're all kind of different stages of different lives. If you start thinking about body composition, if I can start there, we work with partners of ours. Evolt's a partner of ours. NutriShop is a partner of ours. Partnerships that we take very seriously and we're appreciative of. So for amongst the most serious, if you want to track your body composition and have it downloaded into an app and whether you're purchasing from NutriShop or other products that we have available within our brands, we have all those alternatives available, and that's exciting. When it comes to GLP-1s, obviously I'm not a doctor, but even with what I've read and presentations that I've gone to, some sort of physical and mental regimen is a part of your success on GLP-1s. So I see those as a place for us to engage. And if taking a GLP-1 because someone got the right information and made the right decision, gets them into a gym, which they wouldn't have gone to before, then it's great. Come on, let's get started, and we look forward to that. So I think, these things aren't all mutually exclusive. And people are just trying to live their full lives and they're trying to find ways to, accomplish things. And brands, they tend to look at things in silos and verticals, but people don't think of themselves as silos and verticals. One of my favorite examples in life is banking. Like people say, is that an online customer? Is that an M dot somebody on their phone? Is that, a web customer? Actually, it's just somebody trying to get their banking done. And
Yeah.
they're really not trying to make a big deal out of it, right? They're trying to get done so they can go do what they want to do. And some of us take physical fitness and it's our lifestyle, but most people, they're trying to enable their lifestyle and they're trying to be ready for what it is that they're looking to accomplish. And, we hope to be a part of that journey.
This episode of the Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by EGYM. EGYM makes some of the most innovative strength training machines on the market, but that's only one part of their integrated ecosystem. With connected fitness equipment, AI-powered gym software, and a comprehensive corporate wellness offering, it's forging the future of preventative health. Partnering with companies worldwide, EGYM's WellPass program improves employee health by expanding access to premier fitness and health facilities. Upgrading gym floors, EGYM equips every operator with smart equipment and AI tools to create hyper-personalized training plans for every exerciser. Putting it all together, they're transforming healthcare through exercise. Experience the power of EGYM's ecosystem at egym.com. Yeah, it's a huge opportunity, and there's really no one, one size fits all cookie cutter. It's like there's lots of different ways, as you talk about it, to do that and enable that. Of course, now building on what we've talked about with like just strength and thinking about, whether it's longevity or GLP-1s, but also recovery and holistic health more broadly. You've mentioned mental health a couple times. How do you think about those things specifically, whether it's adding programming, amenities, just continuing to support people along that spectrum?
Well, the feeling of isolation during COVID was just real. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody's environment just, I've got a wife and three daughters, schools and work. And, suddenly, like, do I have the bandwidth on the internet for everybody to get in the meeting that they're supposed to be in? And, everybody's in different rooms of the house and you're trying to get done what they're trying to get done. Like everyone's world just collapsed on top of one another. And then, like, where's my out? Where's my best hour of my day? Where's my sense to, just go out there and put on music that I don't have to be ashamed of and crank it out for an hour and just, release energy. And so I think those are things that people look for. That's the mental side that people are looking for. When people return to the gym, especially people that participate in group exercise, I saw them staying outside the gym and just catching up on each other's lives. Where have you been? What are you doing? How are you doing? And what they realize is that is their people, that is their community. Those are their friends. So those are all the things that I think just mattered a lot. And then it's just a question of how do you think of things like their stability, mobility, joint health as you get older, those things become more and more important. So we put a lot of those, types of content into our group exercise classes so people could enjoy and be a part of that. It'll always evolve. I think there's always going to be a fungible aspect of the fitness journey. There's certainly new things like one year spinning is more important, and the next year it's plyometrics, and the next year is Olympic lifting. Like we had to scurry just like every other brand did and buy as many Olympic racks as we could. And, we've got them lined up everywhere. It used to be like if you had three, it was okay. Now we got 10, per club. So everything that we can do just to, kind of keep up with the movement that people are trying to accomplish. And, my point of view is just, listen to your members, listen to your team members, and be as fungible and as adaptable as you can be, but don't be so cookie cutter that you can't listen.
When you think about continuing to, whether growth can be any number of things, right? Growth, the number of members, the kind of remodels and renovations is growth, new clubs. Just given that things do continue to evolve and there are these kind of trends and fads, and some are shorter lived than others. Like, how are you choosing what to invest in or what the footprint looks like, or, whether it's turf or not turf? Obviously, you're listening to the members, which, you talked about, but are you spearheading that by
Yeah.
going and being on the ground? Is there a team or a person at HQ that's thinking about this and
Yeah.
continuing to like pitch new ideas? Just like, where do those start and how do they get implemented?
It's a great question. It really it's a little bit of everything. I think first of all, if you're gonna run a brand, if you're gonna be the CEO, or if you're gonna be on our executive team, then I like to think more of a senior leadership team. If you get an executive team, you can really, and that's your mentality, you can get a bit removed. I expect my team to be in clubs. I expect them to know clubs. There's only 275 of them. Like, we don't need to guess. We're not running some arbitrary company. We're running 24-hour fitness. You should be in with the members. You should know the gyms and you should know what we're talking about. So first, it kind of starts with that. like let's engage in the brand that we run and let's be knowledgeable. And for us, we had to get healthy from the inside out. That was our perspective. Everybody knows, I love the brand, but I can be objective about the brand. And we had to, in that objectivity, see where we need to get healthier and get on a road to get healthy. So we had to begin to invest back in our gyms for people to see that. You could see the trends through industry, through numbers, through workouts. We can tell where people are spending their time. That's not just me, that's an entire team at our company that can say it's Olympic racks, it's turf, it's functional movements, it's less these other things. Then the trick is how do you kind of turn the ship, and at which speed do you do it? And then Solomon's choice is which clubs get remodeled first. And if you pick someone's club, they're like, you're so smart. And if you don't pick another person's club, they're like, what's wrong with you? And from a social standpoint, it's just horrible because you want to say what you're doing, but the minute you say, like, we just did this, people say, why didn't you do that? But really, what you got to do is just tell a methodical story of this is how we're moving as a company and this is what we're looking to accomplish. And then people will engage in that story with you. And as long as you're not too magnanimous about it, then people will, give you the time that it needs to get there. Obviously, it takes a lot of money to be able to do those things.
There were a number of gyms, both in terms of established incumbents like big brands, and also more, kind of mom and pop like local spots that just didn't come back, right? And here you are kind of saying, hey, we had to really take a hard look at what we were doing, build back, implement that. And at this point, a few years removed, it's probably easier to talk about and think about than
Right.
having to make those decisions as you're doing it, and now setting a path forward and spending the money to reinvest and do the remodels and things like that. Like, how are you able to do that kind of operationally, financially, to say, like, this is how we make the numbers work? You talked about, hey, first we, lowered prices and then we started to raise them. But even that, when you're talking about, hey, we want to start building new clubs, like, what does this look like in terms of implementing some of these like hard changes to get back on that road and then actually start to build and grow again?
Yeah, it's really a cadence. Your owners, we picked up new owners coming out of bankruptcy. They've been dedicated, they've been focused, and they've been patient. When you buy a company, you mostly just want it to kind of V-shape recover, and then you can move on. But they've been patient and transparent all along the way in all the things that we've been trying to accomplish. So we had to kind of set the cadence, and then we had to, as we saw the results, continue on that cadence. Like I said, it's a lot easier to look backwards and go, oh, yeah, this is what we were doing. But in reality, our first step was to survive. Our next step is to thrive. That's the real kind of change that we're making now, is that, we're going from survival mode and, lots of rationalization and optimization type conversations to now growth conversations. But we don't want to outspend our success. We want to make sure that we're prudent in our investments so we get the type of return that we're looking for. So we don't make the same mistakes that have been made in other companies or in this company, when it comes to you place your bet, you go too far, and then you get caught long. So it does have to be kind of a sustainable process, but I believe that there's ways of accomplishing that. And I believe that if we have the right orientation as it relates to our approach to the business, then our members will go along with us. So we tell them when a club's going to get remodeled. We show them what they're going to get, and they've reacted very positively.
Maybe a couple more questions before we wrap up here. Just that, time of year, we're getting into January. Traditionally, that's a very popular time for gyms, resolutions, people getting back in shape, things like that. I think it's maybe a little bit different. It's the idea breakage, right? People, we want to buy memberships and then maybe they don't come. And what is that utilization? That's certainly not the case and not the objective. And
Yeah.
so when you look at, okay, now we're getting into this time of year, you're welcoming hopefully lots of new members into the clubs. How do you ensure like engagement and that they're sticking around and that they are building that community and they are getting that, they're finding value there and are able to be long-term members and hopefully make that type of change that we hope that they do?
It's such a great question. You're showing your knowledge. One thing I would say is that the curve has flattened a little bit. And again, I'm new to the industry, but I can see all the data from years past. And when you start thinking about maybe my generation's propensity to do New Year's resolutions and this your generation's propensity to do New Year's resolutions is not as high as it used to be. So Januaries aren't as big as they used to be from an industry standpoint, and the rest of the year the tail isn't as low as it used to be. So you can kind of see those things, balancing out a bit. Doesn't mean that January is not important. It's just it's not do or die like it used to be. Our opportunity in January is to bring in as many members as we can, but also to focus on quality and have, a high degree of intentionality in how we get people started on their journey. Even if you didn't have the names, if you just have the data and the key to being successful and staying and not having that breakage, as you put it, is for people to actually return and work out after they sign up. So, don't necessarily just recognize and reward, hey, great job. We got Joe to sign up. Aren't we a great gym? But, ask the next set of questions. What is he trying to accomplish? When will he be back in? Who did you get him started with? Did you sign him up in a class? Did you sign him up with a group? Has he connected on one of our, we have a free custom coaching session where you have an ability to engage with a trainer for an hour and talk about what you're trying to do. And yeah, of course, we'd love for you to buy fitness. It's a for profit business. But even if you don't buy fitness, you've got an hour worth of knowledge from a fitness professional that can help you think about how you go about that journey by yourself if you'd like to. So, those are the things that we look to get done in January, not just the big numbers, but a higher level of intentionality so that people can get started and they can get that rhythm going and they can stay throughout the year. And it's so mathematically predictable that it's frustrating that
Yeah.
all that it takes is for people to work out within those first 60 days, and the rate by which they work out can predict their future. We just got to get people started, got to get people going, got to get people moving. And that's not only making sure that we're knowledgeable, but that's making sure that we're fun. Fitness should be fun. But people have stress about getting fit, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but there's ways to really make it enjoyable. What exercises should I do? What exercises are you doing? Well, I'm not doing any exercise. Well, let's get you started. Let's get you moving. Let's get you out there. And if you do those things, it's amazing how fast it comes. And just to kind of round out a lot of the conversations that we've had, that's where body composition is so important, because if all you're doing is looking at the scale, then you're going to miss the fact that your body's actually changing on the inside. The weight might have been moving, but you have more muscle, you have less fat. And no matter how long you've been at it, it's amazing, how somebody can change your life. When I started with the company, I've had both my knees redone. I go through personal training sessions and of course, as part of my onboarding, I get PT sessions. I meet a trainer named Ryan who's like built like out of Greek mythology. And he's like, let's work out. I'm like, oh no, like this guy's going to hurt me. I got to go to work tomorrow, right? Like, let's just check the box and like move on. Turns out
Yeah.
exercise physiology degree, brilliant, energetic, amazing trainer who helped me actually build muscle around my knees that I was protecting, and saying like, let's build muscle around your knees to protect you instead of avoiding exercise to protect you. My entire fitness regimen is different just because of that interaction. Downtown Sacramento club in 2019, like I own the world. And those are the differences that you can make no matter how long you've been in the industry.
Yeah. Pretty incredible. And I think having been around, well, hopefully being that coach and trainer before, but also being around that, it's like countless stories of that being the case. And the idea, like you said, oh, I'm not fit enough. I'm not in shape enough to go to the gym, or
Exactly.
I'm not like I can't. It's like all those reasons is
Yeah.
even more reason to maybe get in there and do it and see what happens.
Right.
Wrapping up with this, if you we talked about a lot today, both in terms of looking back and the now, and we talked a little bit about continuing to stabilize things, lay the foundation in 2025, then potentially look at growth in future years. Just what do you talk about with the team in terms of what the outlook is, what the KPIs are. Like, how are you thinking about, because you have to do it. We just talked a lot about with members, right? Making sure they're engaged, making sure they're working out, get them hopefully in a good routine, but also with the broader team, kind of rallying the troops and saying like, hey, this is where we're headed. This is what we're trying to achieve. Like, what are those conversations like? And what are you kind of steering that towards?
I'm a big believer in authenticity, which makes me, the type of leader that when you first meet, I get like a B minus, and then, over time, my grade goes up because my ability to actually do what it is that I said I was going to do is a high score. I get and told my team in 23 it was going to be a grind. Like, who does that? Who says this year is going to be horrible? But it was going to be horrible, right? Like there wasn't going to be a lot of degrees of operational freedom. There wasn't going to be a lot of spend. We had to catch up. What I actually just got off a meeting with the team a couple of hours ago, and I told them, we're finally at that point that we talked about, where we turn from survive to thrive. And the good news is that we are going to grow. The flip side of that coin is that we have to make our growth numbers. We need to be predictably successful. And the team that was able to survive and had proficiency has to be the team that can thrive and have proficiency. So I'm very honest. I think there's maybe like 10% of my job. I don't know what the number is. I'm making up a percent that's confidential. The rest of it is all about inspiration and engagement. And you don't inspire and engage people through nonsense. So when you say everything's great and they know it's not great, they're like, he's not even close to telling us the truth. But if you tell them the truth and you show them a path, they'll go on that path with you. And the success of 24-hour fitness is owned by all of us, just like the failure of 24-hour fitness would be owned by all of us. And I know the weight that people like putting on the CEO, but it's really his or her ability to inspire and engage the team than it is, and to get them to perform with and for them, than it is like any one individual intellect or ability. It takes a village. And if you don't have the village, you'll lose it fast.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And the kind of shoot it straight and authenticity came through even in that explanation of how to go about it. So certainly a lot to look forward to, a lot of opportunity. And it sounds like getting into that thrive mode. So we'll certainly be following along as you do that. For anybody listening who also wants to follow along, learn more, is it the website, social media? Where would you point them?
Yeah, both really. We've got obviously 24hourfitness, .com. We've got, an incredible app. We've got great team members, great clubs. I'm really appreciative of your time. Thank you very much and happy holidays.
Likewise, thank you for being here. I'm excited to share the conversation. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you got value from the conversation, please consider subscribing and sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It's a massive help. And if you want more content like this, including news and insights on the latest industry developments, subscribe to the Fitt Insider newsletter at insider.fit.co. And one more thing, you can learn more about our recruiting and consulting services at fit.co. That's FITT.co. I'll see you here next week.